And 3, 2, 1.
Yo, 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 yo. Welcome back to another episode of the Nyc and Griff Show. Today is March 12th, Saturday, March 12th, 9:14 a.m. here Central Standard Time. To give you a quick outline of what we're wanting to talk about today, Biden signs the executive order. Now, we posted an episode this past Wednesday talking about the fact sheet, but the official executive order has been released, and we've read that puppy, and we've got some notes. We're going to talk about that. And then we've got to come back to the main thing, right? We got to keep the main thing, and that is, what is money? That's a little bit of our outline here for today. But before we jump into the fun stuff, let's get to this market check here. Griff, what are you thinking, man? This week we had, again, some more things happening in the crypto space, in the Bitcoin space, in the digital asset space. What are you thinking here? Let's look at some of these things. Also, before we get started on this, we keep forgetting to say the price for people that are listening. So to start, before we get into that, before we get into Griff's thoughts here, Bitcoin is sitting at right now 38,900 and some change. The S&P is sitting at 4,200. So let's hop into this here. What are you thinking, Griff?
I think the crazier life gets, the saying one Bitcoin is going to get more popular. I think that saying becomes really popular every time Bitcoin goes down from like 60 to 40K, 40 to 29, or what we've been doing like the past year. But one Bitcoin is going to mean a lot more moving forward, because if you can tell, the prices that we should be looking at are the grocery store bill, the gas price, the everyday commodities that aren't even really reflected in our CPI reports. Inflation is rampant, so the purchasing power of Bitcoin, in my opinion, is going to go up pretty significantly, especially over the next 5 to 10 years. So one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin. You just have to keep pricing everything as best you can in Bitcoin and realize that over time it's going way down. So keep accumulating sats, keep letting the world become deflationary for you. I think that's a big piece of Bitcoin that we don't touch on enough. Is one Bitcoin has a lot of meaning to it. And in the sense that I'd like to just highlight real quickly, because everything is so crazy, all that matters about Bitcoin is its purchasing power. Nothing else about it really matters. It's supposed to be the best form of money in human history. So that means at some point in its history, you will be able to purchase anything you want with it. And if it's the best money in human history, the money will actually work for the people. So you have money that should be working for you over the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years. So that's my take on the markets this morning, Nick. I think that one Bitcoin is going to become super popular.
100%. That goes right in. You mentioned there the CPI. We did actually this past Thursday have the newest CPI numbers come out, inflation numbers for February, year over year, February of 2022. Jumped up another little bit here, a couple of points here. It's at 7.9%. We're knocking on 8% inflation's doors. So across all items, we got 7.9, and of course we can drill down and look at different elements. But food up 7.9, energy up another 25.6%. Everything that I don't understand why people even look at this all items minus food and energy, because people have to use those. I don't know why they have that metric.
Yeah, doesn't it feel like some of the metrics that they put out, when you dig into like the CPI metric itself and you realize that it's kind of BS, you're like, okay, so are they lying to us? Is this just a creative way to lie? Because what was the number? Wasn't it 8.7? What was the number officially? Inflation number 8 points. I thought it was 8.7, but I might be wrong.
Well, this one, the one that I just had pulled up there, was 7.9 across all items.
Okay, 7.9% inflation, but gas prices are up 25%. Okay, but housing prices are up what? Yeah. But people's rent. I mean, I just talked to my buddy in Florida, Luke, this week, and he said that he's moving apartments because his rent went up $650, and he was like, I mean, it's like, if I'm going to pay that much money, I might as well try to live somewhere a little bit nice. I might as well just enter the next category, because it's like, what the hell? But these numbers are so fake, and I think that we're going to jump right into this executive order that Nick has done a really good job of outlining. So I'm going to let Nick take it from here a little bit. but just keep all of this in your head when we talk about this executive order, and CBDCs get brought up and government control gets brought up and money and government, right? A lot of what we talk about is Bitcoin is the separation of money and government. And why is that important? And so, Nick, what do you think about this executive order that came out? And what do you think is the most important grabs within this document? Because it's not going to directly say Bitcoin. It's not going to directly really say anything. It's pretty political, but what do you think?
Yeah, so it's definitely interesting. And if you haven't had a chance to read just the quick fact sheet, it's a 10-minute episode from this past Wednesday. That's got kind of the headlines of what is included in this document. Now, that was done before this executive order was actually released, but so it does go into more depth on all of these different areas. But here, just to get started here, I'll read this first sentence from Section 1. They call it policy. Section 1 is policy. So it says, advances in digital and distributed ledger technology for financial services have led to dramatic growth in markets for digital assets with profound implications for the protection of consumers, investors, and businesses, including data privacy and security, right? So there's one piece. Financial stability and systematic risk, that's a second piece. Crime is the third piece. National security is the fourth. The ability to exercise human rights is the fifth. Financial inclusion and equity is the sixth. And energy demand and climate change is the seventh, which is the last piece. So these are the seven main pieces that they're talking about here in this executive order. And then it breaks it down into much more detail as we move down through this. So one of the highlights here, if you guys are watching on YouTube, you can kind of follow along with what we're looking at. But this one main highlight here in this first section here is the United States has an interest in responsible financial innovation, expanding access to safe and affordable financial services, and reducing the cost of domestic and cross-border funds transfers and payments, including through the continued modernization of public payment systems. Now, that sentence right there in and of itself, I think is a good statement. I think that's a good statement. I think that's good. Now, the question is, how are they going to go about this, right? How are they going to go about this is really the main question, because I think we can all say, yeah, we want affordable financial services. We want to reduce the cost of domestic and cross-border payments, right? And funds transfers. We want things to be safe, right? We want those things.
Yeah, but we just want to evaluate it using these 7 factors that we deem to be the arbiters on only and exclusively, when I don't know, it doesn't feel like this presidential what is it called, this regime or this administration.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like, and this is a pretty unbiased opinion because me and Nick are just kind of young guys, really just, even if you want to get into the politics of it all, we're pretty apolitical people. We don't really care about the politics. We care about the money. Seems kind of odd. This administration feels the need to say, oh, climate change, oh, crime, oh, national security, oh, systemic risk. What's been the systemic risk of getting rid of gold-backed dollars? having extremely poor people in America. Like, I mean, for some people, America is turning into a third world country. Yeah. And for some people who make enough money, it's still the wonderful country that, you know, oh, it's America. But it's not, because if everybody can't enjoy it or even have the opportunity to enjoy it in the same way, then the systemic risk is the government's failed us.
Yeah.
But that, hey, I'll let you continue. But that's just kind of, I think that's funny how right out of the gate, it's like they're using climate change as a reason to object to what would be the greatest. Bitcoin is the greatest innovation for money ever. And that's unarguable, because if even the Peter Schiffs of the world would agree to using Bitcoin, that means money is now free, literally free. And the only way that you can get more of it is by mining. And then when mining is over, the only way you can get more of it is by validating transactions. And isn't that amazing?
To clarify what you're saying, when you say free, you're saying free of control. Is that correct?
Yeah. And I mean, unequivocally, that's like, that is an innovation to money, because how do you communicate economic value from A to B, or sorry, from A to C, if the B isn't a government, a bank, or something like that. We've never been able to do it because it's really a trustless protocol, and trust is what our dollar is backed on. We're moving money off of the trust system and into the math and code system, which is like, I mean, it's a lot better than our government telling us, they'd like to review digital assets for national security and climate change. Like, fuck, whatever.
Okay,
You
so
keep
so you mentioned that, right? So in section 2, part B, so section 2 is the objectives of the executive order. So just kind of reading through and taking my own notes about what each section of this is. So section A, they talk about they use three people or three entities that they're wanting to protect. Protection of. First one is consumers, the second is investors, and the third is businesses, right? So that pretty much includes everyone. But it's funny, right? We're talking about the federal government protecting us from what they're actually creating, which is hilarious. So the first sentence of section 2, part B says, we must protect the United States, whatever, and global financial stability and mitigate systematic risk. And so my note over here is that they're talking about an objective B. It is to protect against systematic risks, which I think is a good thing. We should protect against systematic risks, right? Things that affect everything, the entire thing. Obviously, we don't want there to be huge gaps and holes that can create huge risks for everything. But it's laughable that they are creating these issues of inflation that we're actually running from. And they're saying, hey, we're going to protect against this in all of these digital assets. Now, I will say, and Griff, I know that you agree with this, all the shit coins out there, this stuff is gonna stop a lot of the bullshit that's out there, because dude, there's so many pump and dump, like straight Ponzi schemes in cryptocurrency because it's so new. People are taking advantage of it. There's only one out there that is truly by the people for the people, and that's Bitcoin. And so it's interesting that in part B, they say we're going to protect against systematic risks.
I just feel that if you're silly enough to put your money in one, then you're silly enough, then you deserve what you put your money into. I don't think that, I just don't think that there should be an entity regulating it. I mean, that's fine if they really get it right, but like, isn't that kind of, that's kind of part of the issue. They don't always get it right. They rarely get it right. Do you know what I'm saying? And then right in this sense, for crypto assets and for the digital space, right would be Ethereum pretty much gone, Solana gone, even the big ones gone, Tether gone, USDC gone, all of them, because they are a risk to people, because none of them, if people really understand digital assets and understand digital money, it's Bitcoin or bust. None of them even make sense when you study Bitcoin enough. That's the problem for a lot of Bitcoiners. They get yelled at, but when you really study it enough, we were all shitcoiners at one point. We were all like, oh, there's a use case for this. Oh, it does this. Oh, no, it pushes Bitcoin further along. Maybe some of them do. I know Ethereum, for example, probably challenged the entire Bitcoin development community to be making it a better form of money, but that's going to happen naturally anyway. So I don't know. You should probably just let people invest into whatever they want to, right? But if regulation means good things for Bitcoin, then I'm happy, because the only thing I don't want is for America to go no Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is the native money of the internet, and the internet, like how some people kind of think about it this way. I think about it this way. The internet is directly competing with not just America as a country, but the internet's also competing with Russia and China. So in this next phase of wherever the world is going, where clearly China and Russia and Iran and some of these countries are getting together, and they feel like America's kind of weaker and it's kind of time for them to make a move, quite possibly. And then, America's battling back. The internet is quietly over here setting up a life for people where they don't even need a government anymore, because they have an economy now. It's called Bitcoin. The internet has its own economy, and you can communicate all your information on the internet. So I don't know. I feel like this is an attempt to stop the internet. It's not about stopping Bitcoin. It's about stopping the internet. And then if you know anything about the internet, it's really hard to stop the internet. So you keep rolling on through. I just think it's super interesting in part B, where it's like, oh, we're trying to help people. We're trying to stop the systemic effects. Well, the systemic effects of the internet and Bitcoin will be countries, jurisdictions without central governments anymore, because there's nothing for them to do, because Bitcoin's already taken care of it. So
now, one of the last statements in that part B, I think does have some truth in it. And that sentence is, the new and unique uses and functions that digital assets can facilitate may create additional economic and financial risks, requiring an evolution to a regulatory approach that adequately addresses those risks. Now, whenever I say those things, I'm thinking about the shitcoins. That makes me think of the shitcoins, because look, Shiba Inu, I don't think that there's any use case for that. That poses a huge risk for, you know, all the people that don't know anything about digital assets or cryptocurrencies or Bitcoin or money. That if you don't have any type of foundational understanding and you're just getting in because you're like, oh, it's just a fun investment to do, that's a huge risk for people. Now, I will say that there's personal responsibility that has to be taken into account there, but on a larger level, like, there's so many bad people out there that'll take advantage of others if they can. And I think that this I don't know if you call it an industry or sector or part of the new economy that's kind of developing. People are for sure taking advantage of this and taking advantage of people because of it. Would you agree?
I just think that I understand what you're saying. You think like regulation has the ability to kick out some of these projects that are no good. How I more so see it is some of this regulation is going to basically give them an environment to grow. I mean, you know, some of this regulation is going to put some of them on a black market. Some of this regulation is going to put some of it into a new world where they kind of got through the regulation and now they're like more of a formidable asset against Bitcoin. So I just kind of think if you let this space do, you know, kind of just come to its natural formation, I think that Bitcoin would come out on top if there was no regulation.
Natural selection of the economy, 100%. It's a free open market economy. Like if
Bitcoin's the best product, people just don't understand that. They just like, people are so, I'm telling you, when they look at these digital assets, they don't understand Satoshis. They don't understand hard money. And that's why I invest in Bitcoin. I would invest in other projects or whatever if I actually felt like it was going to be something. I just don't legitimately think they will ever be really much of anything. Like nothing truly, not sovereign money. I don't think they're good forms of money. So I'm just saying, I think that regulation creates a little honey hole for the ones that do make it. And it's like, why are you even letting anything other than Bitcoin make it? If you are if you're going to regulate it, you might as well just say nothing but Bitcoin. But since that's not the case, you should just let it be a free and open market and let Bitcoin win on its own, because Bitcoin is truly the only, like, it's permissionless. There is no theft going on Bitcoin. Like, it's a totally different thing. It's apples to oranges. So
I think another piece too is like a lot of these shitcoin projects can be, I think it'd probably be classified as securities, as equities, as stakes in companies, stock in companies. And I think that that's very similar, right? Ethereum is kind of similar to that, where Ethereum is a company, right? And whenever you buy Ether, the Ethereum coin, you're buying into a portion of that company, right? And that's a security. That's literally a security. And if it is operating as a security, it should be regulated as a security. There's certain things, there's certain regulation, and I don't know all those regulations, but there are certain regulations that should be in place. And I think that that's good. So again, you got to define, like, what is the end game for Bitcoin or for Ethereum or for whatever, right? Whatever we're talking about, what is the end game? Because what the end game, the goal is going to dictate how you see it moving forward in this regulatory space, right, that we're reading. So to keep moving here, to keep the ball moving. So part C, the third piece, is to limit all, my note says, to limit all the illegal shit. That, you know, this is a big one that people love talking about. Oh, you can use it. They can launder money through cryptocurrencies. The criminals, they can launder money. They can do this. They can do that. There's no regulation. Okay, I get where you're coming from. We now know that the illegal activity that happens on Bitcoin specifically is like less than 1%. It's like zero. There's a significantly more illicit activity going on with the US dollar than there is in cryptocurrency.
And to specify even that illegal activity, we're talking about like poker games, online poker games that, you know what I'm saying? We're not even talking about like massive drug deals. No. If you're taking a lot of drug money, it's called cash. Okay. They're taking cash. They're taking USD. They're not taking Bitcoin. So to just throw that out there, Bitcoin is not a way for people to do illegal activity. It's not a way for you to do things that you don't want to be caught doing. Actually, it's the opposite of that. It's on an open source public ledger. So if your money is ever tainted, you're so easy to find. It's actually a problem within Bitcoin where Bitcoiners are like, we don't even have enough privacy. It's like a non-private situation. So it's just this whole document, like I understand like this is something that people are excited about because it's like, you know, the more we go through it, the more it's really, they didn't say shit. They're not saying anything. They don't know what to do because it doesn't really sound so far through this document, and maybe there will be at some point, but it just doesn't sound like they understand Bitcoin at all when they're going through this document. That's probably good for Bitcoin, to be honest with you, but at the same time, it's just hilarious because it's like, couldn't you guys just hire somebody to like teach you what Bitcoin is? Like, I don't understand.
So they do mention that here a little bit further down, I believe. But so one of the questions here that I had on one of the sentences in here, the sentence reads, growth in decentralized financial ecosystems, peer-to-peer payment activity, and obscured, that's a strange word, obscured blockchain ledgers without controls to mitigate illicit finance could also present additional market and national security risks in the future. So my question to that is, the risks to who and the risks to what? What are the risks associated with those things? You know, and I'm not going to say that there's zero risk, because there are certain things that could happen that would not be good for people, right? But I would like them to, and they do mention throughout here at one point, I don't know exactly where it's at, but they talk about putting a team together and they're going to go explore and learn and figure all these things out. And then they're going to come back and they're going to present, hey, this is what we found. Here are some recommendations on this and that. And we'll get down further into the CBDC stuff, which is crazy. But here's another one here that I was like, what does this really mean? When digital assets are abused or used in illicit ways or undermine national security, it is in the national interest to take actions to mitigate these illicit finance and national security risks through regulation, oversight, law enforcement action, or use of other United States government authorities. I was like, Dad gum, man, that's tough here. So,
and isn't that interesting? Because I think even some of this, maybe it's not coming at Bitcoin. So let me try to not be as offended by this document as it sounds every time that you've read something.
Yeah, there's no reason to be defensive here. It does get a little bit better. It just, we'll see how it shakes out, I guess, over the long term.
Isn't it funny though? Because even in that statement, they're talking, you know, what they're talking about is Dogecoin, Shiba, things that pump and dump. They're talking about things that aren't Bitcoin that have made people a lot of money, like crypto.com instead of the Staples Center. Crypto.com was mostly made on pump and dumps that don't actually have any benefits to society. So I think I understand what they're coming at here. It's just funny because they're the ones that printed the money that made it possible. They're the ones that basically took all the value out of the US dollar. So it's really their fault that all of this is happening. And you're never obviously going to hear, I mean, I understand the government's not going to be self-deprecating ever, although it would be wise of a presidential candidate to maybe go about it that way because they have screwed the American public. But I just think it's funny because even in that statement, maybe they're not coming at Bitcoin, but you're getting mad at people for trying to live in an environment that you created.
Yeah.
People are just doing what they have. They're just doing what they're like. It took a lot of people a long time to catch on. And then they're like, shit, if Coinbase just lists it and it's a penny, pretty decent chance I could probably 5x my money pretty quick. Why not? And
Yeah.
everybody did it. And some people got left holding the bag. But it's like the fucking when somebody posts an Instagram story and says, fill my box with your name and give me $100 and whatever. And it's a pyramid scheme. And some people join up with it and some people make money and some people don't. It's it's just life. And I think that with in this particular scenario, most people got this money to invest from a stimulus check from money they should have never gotten anyway that they printed. So keep going with the document, but isn't it's funny because these guys never mention, hey, by the way, we're the ones who played ourselves.
Well, listen to this here. You'll like this next one here. So in part B, after reading this little section here, the main point of this one is the United States must maintain control of the monetary standard or we won't receive the benefits of that. And so here's the sentence that goes along with that. The United States derives, listen to this, the United States derives significant economic and national security benefits from the central role that the United States dollar and the United States financial institutions and markets play in the global financial system. How about that? That's the absolute truth. Whoever has the top currency has the most value within their economy, and it makes our living standard significantly cheaper than it does anywhere else in the world, right? Because our dollar, right, our US dollar has the most value compared to the vast majority of all the other currencies out there. But man, that's crazy.
But what people don't understand, what I would challenge even to the United States, what they don't understand about Bitcoin, what even they're missing, is that what makes things so expensive are everything in the middle between technology to the end consumer. Everything in the middle is what makes shit expensive in this country at this point. Bitcoin takes out a lot of those intermediaries, therefore giving us the ability to strengthen the value within the money that we could buy in exchange for goods and services. Because the real point of this whole thing is you have a really strong form of money. Now all of a sudden gas costs 49 cents or it costs what, you know what I'm saying? It costs
It went up 20 cents here in Tulsa just over the past week and a half, I think.
Yeah, it's insane because money and people don't understand. People will understand. Americans will get smart fast when hyperinflation kind of comes in here. They'll get smart fast. They'll realize it's not the gas station. It's not the grocery store. It's not that because they're really just setting a dollar price to make a profit. Trust me, they're not making a ton of money on everybody. So I think everybody's going to get really smart here in the next 5 years. They're going to go, hey, this is about the strength of the money. So why does the US dollar have no economic value? Oh, they printed it a lot for everything, for wars, for COVID pandemics, for Medicare, Medicaid, public education. Doesn't matter because all the excise taxes you pay on your cigarettes or your junk food or when you go out to eat, that's paying for those specific industries. The money that they're charging for increasing our military budget, like doing a lot of these other things, that is what is hurting the dollar. And I just think it's really interesting. Like I think it's gonna play out beautifully for a digital asset to come in and go, yeah, well, my digital asset's worth a lot. It's worth a lot. How much can I get for 10 satoshis here pretty soon? Probably a lot because money should make the world can be deflationary. And this is what I'll start to round it back into. If our government understood that all Bitcoin is trying to do is make the world deflationary because it's giving us the ability to cut out a lot of mediums, which really just hike up the prices. Even salespeople in the middle of it are hiking up prices. If you had good enough platforms to sell from A to C and you didn't need B, everybody would do it. But Bitcoin really does take out a lot of a lot of the weight that takes out from businesses. So it would really help if they were here to do the right things, which I guess Bitcoin is kind of challenging our government because Bitcoin is saying, here is a free market. Do you want it? And our government is saying, no, they don't want a free market, but you can keep going. Just think
So
it's
in part E here, the first sentence here, this wraps it up pretty good, but it says we must promote access to safe and affordable financial services. And I mentioned it here down in part F as well. And this one talks about to support growth in a safe way, right? It's really interesting that they use the words safe in these. So in part E, one sentence here to highlight is the United States also has an interest in ensuring that the benefits of financial innovation are enjoyed equitably, right? Meaning fair, equal by everyone, by all Americans, and that any desperate impacts of financial innovation are mitigated. So, I think that's fair, right? We've already got something actually that does that. It's called Bitcoin. Part F here, I did not have any highlights in here, but this first sentence says we must support technological advances that promote responsible development. I don't really know what that means. And use, okay, of digital assets. Okay, fair enough, right? They want to make sure that things are developing responsibly. I think a lot of this stuff points back to the shit coins. So that's kind of the first that's
I don't know, man. I kind of disagree. I don't think it points to the shit coins. Did you see over in the UK what they did last week? They banned Bitcoin. They banned Bitcoin ATMs. And here's my question to you. I was asked.
They were running illegally, though. They were running illegally. That wasn't like a straight ban on them. They just weren't recognized by the legal entities. And I don't know, man. I haven't read a whole lot up on that one.
I sound uneducated then. But if they can ban Bitcoin ATMs, if you do take that headline for what it could potentially be,
yeah.
I ask you this: if there was some gold ATM where you could throw your dollars in there and it gave you gold, like it gave it to you, because that's what a Bitcoin ATM can do. It is yours because it can go directly to a hard wallet. So it's yours. It's like as if you go to an ATM machine and it gives you gold bars back. You're like, hell yeah, like this is what I'd rather do this. And if we could, that would be a better, people don't understand that society would run better with a harder form of money like that. And honestly, with where people understand, still caring about tangible assets, most societies being a little bit older, that's probably what they would like gold would make more sense to them right now. But when people really understand that Bitcoin is the hardest form of money, even harder than gold, if there was a Bitcoin ATM down the corner of your street, they might end up banning them because that they might not deem it safe. Because guess what? The dollar would be
not safe for them, for their dollar.
The dollar where people would go unbanked.
They can't control it.
Unbanked. Yeah, that's what. So I don't like. That's where I'm not seeing it as shitcoin. I'm seeing it as like the UK can kind of like ban these Bitcoin ATMs. Back in executive order when they took away everybody's gold and paid them basically like pennies on the dollar for their gold and said you can't own gold anymore, give it to the government. Bitcoin, people understand, they're afraid of the safe development or growth of Bitcoin because there's nothing they can do, because they can't take it from you like they took gold. They can't threaten your life with imprisonment, because the only way that they can find out it's you is if you're dumb enough to let them, if you don't understand it. So
it's part D right here. The United States must maintain control of the monetary standard. 100%.
See, and I just don't trust them because I don't think it's just shit coins. I think that they just don't understand what they're up against yet. And the moment that they really understand what Bitcoin is here to do, especially when you take it as far as Bitcoin is here to bolster our energy grid, is here to help the world environmentally.
Yeah.
They're gonna try and ban the hell out of it. They're gonna be like, no. So I think this might just be setting up for that, because they're gonna be like, hey, look at our executive order. It clearly states what we didn't want from a digital asset. And there are things that are already in here that, technically speaking, from their point of view, Bitcoin is infringing upon. So it is leaving the door open for them to close it on Bitcoin. And I just think it's BS, because why do we even care what these people say? It's our economy, it's our life, but we can continue on.
So in section 3 here, this executive order, it's titled coordination, and it lists the huge list of all the different entities that will be involved in this whole thing. And I'm not going to go through all that. It's this agency and that agency and this council and yada, yada, yada. So we'll skip over that piece here. Now, section 4 is something that I really, really want to lean into because this shit is scary. So section 4 is titled Policy and Actions Related to United States Central Bank Digital Currencies. So they're throughout the rest of this, they're gonna call central bank digital currencies CBDCs, right? Now this one's a little scary here. So before we get into kind of talking about this, I want to hit on some of the main pieces here of what it's talking about. So in part 1 of part A of section 4, it says my administration places the highest urgency on research and development efforts into the potential design and deployment options of a United States CBDC. Okay, so there's part 1. Part 2 says my administration sees merit in showcasing United States leadership and participation, in international fora. I'm not sure what fora means, related to CBDCs and in multi-country conversations and pilot projects involving CBDCs. Part 3 says the United States CBDC may have the potential to support efficient and low-cost transactions. That 100% would, particularly for cross-border funds transfers and payments to foster greater access to the financial system with fewer of the risks posed by private sector administered digital assets. Again, I see a lot of pointing towards the shit coins here, but so let's break this down here a little bit. So let me just follow me down this little rabbit hole real quick, Griff. So right now, it's
so scary. Can I just say how scary?
Dude, I'm
so shocked, dude. I'm so confused. Maybe we're the only ones that have really read this in depth, but I haven't seen on the Bitcoin community enough uproar about this document. I mean, this is really kind of scary. It's
dude,
like,
it is. Listen to this. Follow me down this little hole here. Now, I don't know. Maybe this is some tinfoil hat type shit here, but I was thinking about this with one of the guys at the office who hopefully we'll have on here soon. Follow me down this little hole. If the government, the federal government and the Fed, they want to control money so that they can continue spending money, doing what they want to do, they want to operate with that modern monetary theory. If they want to do that, but they want to do it more efficiently, how could they do that? Okay, well, what if they could take advantage of all the benefits of a digital asset or digital currency, in that it can be peer-to-peer, right? We can take advantage of using blockchain technology, and they actually don't specifically mention using exactly blockchain technology for this central bank digital currency. But what if they could take advantage of the instantaneous settlement of the funds, right? And they can eliminate the SWIFT system. Now, also the SWIFT system is just a messaging system. That's not actually the funds being transferred, right? But what if they could make it much more efficient, and they were able to track who owns what wallets and how much money they've got in each of those wallets? And what if they utilized, what if they did utilize a blockchain technology type system to verify all of these transactions? But instead of using a proof of work system where everybody gets a chance, they use a proof of stake system, and they always maintain the largest amount of the currency in, let's call it the Fed's ledger, right? Or in the Fed's wallet, so that the Fed verifies all the transactions, right? And so they've got control there still. So then the Fed would still have control over the monetary policy, right? The supply and the interest rates. It would still operate very similar to the system that we've got today, but it's more efficient and they've got more control, right? What the hell is going on? Let's look at a couple of these. Let's look at a couple of these highlights here. So support the continued centrality of the United States within the international financial system. The centrality, continued centrality. Dude, it's crazy. Look, so my note here is these fucks don't get it. Money cannot be controlled. That's why we're in the issue that we're in right now.
Yeah, keep reading through the rest of this so that we can really
So
about.
to continue this, now they go through and they add this within 180 days of the date of this order. So basically what they're setting out here is they're saying, hey, we're going to give these people, right? They mentioned the Secretary of the Treasury in consultation with the Secretary of the State, and they mentioned all these other peoples. We're going to give you 180 days from the date of this order to give us this information. And they go down, they list it all. So this first part B here, it shall submit to the president a report on the future of money and the payment systems, including the conditions that drive broad adoption of digital assets, the extent to which technological innovation may influence these outcomes, and the implications for the United States financial system, the modernization of and changes to payment systems, economic growth, financial inclusion, and national security. Now, so my note here is looking forward to that. I will really be interested in seeing what they come up with these things, right? So again, to reiterate what I said previously, this group that they mentioned above, they've got 180 days to come up with all the answers to that. And so it says this report shall be coordinated, yada, 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 with this thing. So based on the potential United States CBDC design options. So they're going to come up with design options for this central bank digital currency. And they're saying that this report needs to include the analysis of here. So it gives us 7 pieces here. So the first part is the potential implications of the United States CBDC based on the possible design choices for national interests, including implications for economic growth and stability. Okay, there's part 1. Part 2, the potential implications of a United States CBDC might have on financial inclusion. Okay, so we want to include it. So what implications is that going to have? Okay, we want to include everybody. Part 3 says the potential relationship between CBDC and private sector administered digital assets. So if the United States creates a central bank digital currency, what impact is this going to have on all of the privately administered or issued digital currencies? So that is a good question. I would be interested to know what that is. The fourth part here says the future of sovereign and privately produced money globally and implications for our financial system and democracy. I think that's a fair question, right? What are the implications of that? Part 5 is the extent to which foreign CBDCs, which we know that China has actually already moved to a system that's something like a CBDC. So to the extent to which foreign CBDCs could displace existing currencies and alter the payment system in ways that could undermine the United States financial centrality. So again, there's this huge focus on staying the central power. And then part 6 here, the potential implications for national security and financial crime, including an analysis of illicit financing risks, sanction risks, other law enforcement and national security interest, and implications for human rights. And finally, part 7 here, an assessment of the effects that the growth of foreign CBDCs may have on the United States interests generally. Dude, that's a lot to break down there. So this is again kind of leads into what
initial reaction, good or bad? I mean, like, this is how much more of this document do we have left right here? Is that pretty much the extent of this executive order, or is there even? I mean, are we talking about it? Like it's wow, it continues.
If it keeps going, it keeps going. Dude, this thing is packed. It is packed with information. So I don't want to speculate too much.
Crazy.
I don't want to speculate too much on exactly what this means, but also to come back here, all that this is saying is that all of those things that we mentioned there, all those 7 parts, it's saying that they want a report done in 180 days that will show what all of these things are. Now, they're not talking about taking any action at this point. They're saying we want to see a report on what this stuff looks like. So let's keep going.
I mean, he's the president of the United States. So doesn't that, I mean, like, and he issued an executive order. So that typically means something's going to get done.
Dude, and that's what my notes are here. So listen to this. Part C, it says, to develop a strategic plan for Federal Reserve and broader United States government action as appropriate that evaluates the necessary steps and requirements for the potential implementation and launch of a United States CBDC. So with that report, they're going to put together a plan to actually launch this thing, which is like, okay, so they're launching this deal. And then just below that, it says enhance or impede the ability of monetary policy to function effectively as a critical macroeconomic stabilization tool. Again, they're trying to control it, right? So my note here is if the government can pull this off, it would be the most important thing they've done to maintain control and power. And freaking, I don't know how long, dude. If they could pull this off, they would have so much power because they can see everything. They can verify what they want to verify. Not everything, right? But what they want to verify. And if they can still maintain control of monetary policy and the supply of money, interest rates, all that stuff, dude, that is huge for an authoritarian government. If they can pull this off, dude, it'll be freaking crazy.
Yeah, so it'd be incredible for them. And here's the thing.
Not good for us, but
here's,
really
here's
good
the thing. And I'm just thinking from I'm just thinking out loud here. As people, we're all just working out here on this planet. And, if you're given the option to do something that really helps improve life, the quality of life for everybody, most people would be like, yeah, let's do that. We want to make this the best possible place for everybody. If everybody could have everything they ever wanted, everybody would be like, sure, why not? So we're all going towards a utopian society. Everybody's like, we'd love that. But if you look at history, it would show you that we can't get to a utopian society with the government. Otherwise, we would do a socialist society. Otherwise, we would give them control of pretty much everything, because it's much easier for a small group of people to make decisions than 360 million people at once. So I understand where central powers feel that they can affect so much change so quickly. Well, they can, but what people are not understanding about Bitcoin is that this is the very first time in human history, it's as easy to communicate with the world economically, which really means politically as well. This is the first time we can communicate politically and everybody can have a voice with just a note on your computer. And that's I just think people aren't seeing that side of it. We've never had this ability before. We can now work with each other to get to that utopian society. We all have different views on what it is, but we can get there. And there's typical baseline things I think that everybody can agree upon. We can get there now without a government. But what these guys are saying is, hey, now with digital assets, we can get to the government's idea of a utopian society much faster. But they're right. It's not that they're wrong. These digital assets, this is a huge innovation. This is a huge thing, whether it ends up being Bitcoin or not. That's what people need to understand right now. You can't support anything other than Bitcoin because none of them are free. Dogecoin, maybe. I mean, shit, that's why I don't really hate on Doge too much, because from what I understand about it, it's just kind of like Bitcoin. It's a commodity on the internet, at least. But you get where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
That is really why we can't trust the CBDC on the biggest scale. We can go into different examples of why it might be bad to start a CBDC. Do you guys want a social credit score system to where if you jaywalked a couple times, all of a sudden you can't get as good of a loan on your house? Okay, so we can agree that giving them that much control over the financials and a central authority is not good, because we've already seen that power get exerted to an extent in other countries and even here. 1971 to now, what are we talking about? So I think that's what people don't understand, is that we would all like to get to that utopian society, and people would like roads to get built, right? People want great roads, but we've never had the opportunity to build roads without a central authority until right now. So that's why I implore, and that's why we have this podcast.
Yeah.
Understand, as a society, we can now build roads. We can now build hospitals. We can now change the world from an economic standpoint, which really, if you understand the world, that's everything. We can change the world from an economic standpoint without a central authority now. First time ever in human history. You can be a part of it. Learn to code. Learn to be a part of it. and you can. And we don't need a government anymore. But what the government is saying directly in this document, in my opinion, is a direct threat to the freedom of the world, because everybody knows those people. There are people in this world that would love to have power over you. There are people who take their talent and ability and go, how do I control other people? And we're at a point in the world where there are clearly some in society that think they know what's best for everybody else. And quite honestly, if you believe in freedom on either side of that political equation, LGBTQ, BLM, and the most conservative right human being, it doesn't really matter. We want freedom. And freedom is not what we just read in that executive order. So I just wanted to, that's my closing thoughts for the day. I think we should probably read even the second half of it, because it doesn't seem like anybody's deep dove that enough. That is, I feel like that's an assault on the free people of this world. And it should really just go and show you, you think that they do a lot now? Yeah, I mean, like, they're right. That can really speed them up controlling your ass.
100%.
But Bitcoin is the world that is protecting you from that. And so if you're getting mad at a maxi out there or somebody who won't stop talking about Bitcoin, I politely tell you to shut up, because at least they're trying to help. I mean, because we all just want to be free, but at the same time, we want to be free with a high quality of life. And now we can get to the highest possible quality of life while being the most free we've ever been.
Yeah.
I say we shoot for that. I say that's what we go for, but that's just me.
Yeah. So to wrap this up here and to reel things back in, right? When we talk about money, we're not talking about dollars. We're not talking about Bitcoin. We're not talking about gold. We're not talking about Great British pounds. We're talking about what the underlying value of money is supposed to be. And that is a medium of exchange, a store of value, and unit of
purchasing power, things that matter.
It is the time and labor that create the economic value in the market, and money is what represents that. That's what we use, because we'll get into some of this stuff here a little bit later. But when we're talking about money, we're not talking about dollars. We're not talking about, buying a car, right? We're talking about what money represents. We appreciate you guys listening. Come check us out. We are on Twitter. We're on YouTube. If you guys are not watching on YouTube right now, come check us out on YouTube. We record all of our stuff and upload it onto YouTube. So things like today, where we're going through and we've got this executive order pulled up. You guys can follow along with us. Hit us on Twitter. Another thing too, shoot us your questions. If you're not a Bitcoin maximalist quite yet, if you don't quite fully believe, shoot us the questions. Like, why not? Why do you not believe? We'd love to address some of those things and talk about some of those things with you guys. But yeah, come hit us on Twitter. We post fun stuff. Here is that the prices of gas here I was telling you about. When was this post from? Let's see. This was from.
I'm gonna give a quick shout out at the end of this podcast from me as well. I get on here and give some pretty hot takes because I've done a lot of studying of Bitcoin, as Nick could probably tell you. If you look at my Spotify or whatever, I'm a listener and a visual learner. So I've probably watched and listened to probably a good couple thousand hours worth of content at this point from every source. Nick is the one who's been doing the deep dives on these documents and really going through them and doing this stuff. So, and I honestly, Nick, thank you. But like the people who listen to this, I know it's not that many yet, but like they should thank you, because going deep diving a document like that, not a lot of people will do. And I think when we really got into it there, you even were, after maybe this is like the second or third time you've read it, you're like, yeah, I thought that wasn't as bad, but I'm like, no, that's not good. Like, I don't feel like that was good at all. And I'm glad that we went through it like that. I think it was really good.
Yeah, and we'll have to finish up. We'll have to go through the rest of that at some point too, and give everybody else the rest of the breakdown. Maybe we can hit that. I don't know, maybe not next weekend, because Griff is going to be he's going to be hosting the show next week all by himself. He may have a guest on. I'm not sure. Griff, that's up to Griff there. So, but hey. Appreciate you guys listening to another episode. We're going to do another full deep dive in the rest of that document at some point. Don't worry, it's coming. But we appreciate it, and we will see you next time. Peace.